feeling start, I put a wall around my heart, but you're breaking it down. It falls to the ground, 'cause I had lost what you just found. The noise all around, I'm drowning it out, like we're the only ones in the crowd. 'Cause you save me now, save me now, save me now, save me now, save me the feeling start, I put a wall around my heart, but you're breaking it down. It falls to the ground, 'cause I had lost what you just found. The noise all around, I'm drowning it out, like we're the only ones in the crowd. 'Cause you save me now, save me now, save me now, save me now, save me now. me out of my mind. Would I go chasing after? I had myself to blame. I knew it meant disaster. My house went up in flames. I ran until the morning with my heart from my chest. I put my soul into this. I can't control you'll be mine forever. Even though you're far away, I still know we need to move in. We are together. Every time I think of you and it takes me to a special place in my mind where we can be together. And I still hope that you'll be mine forever. Even though you're far away, I still know we need to move in. We are together.
Well, hello, and welcome to our show. It is Sunday, January 10th, 2021, and I am going to bring my co-host in. Hello, Zach. How are you?
Hi.
Oh, yeah,
Hello.
That's right. That's right. You answer the same way every week. How are you? Average. So, anyway.
I just started doing that, some time ago, and people's reactions to it is quite funny, I think.
Wait, you never used to do that? Do I need to go back and listen to old shows?
I never typically answered in terms of average.
I know. What would you always say? Like,
Fine or whatever, I don't know.
yeah, probably. So, anyway. Um, so, this week's show is going to be a little different, a little interesting, possibly controversial. There has been a decent amount happening in the news, just this last week. So we're going to talk about some stuff. We're going to try not to get too political because that's not the point of our show. And we're going to try to be as unbiased as possible. I think we've done a pretty good job of trying to keep our personal politics out of this show, and that's what I want. So it shouldn't matter what party affiliation myself or Zach has. That's not important. We're not here to debate why you should affiliate yourself with one or another political party. That's not the point of our show. But like I said, there are going to be some controversial topics, I think, in this show this week. But things that I think need to be addressed and need to be talked about. The biggest one is the big news, obviously, is that there was and we're not going to talk too much about this, but the United States Capitol was attacked by a mob of people. Now, it shouldn't matter what political party you're a part of. That should not be acceptable at ever, is what I'm going to say. It should not be tolerated.
Of course.
Yeah. Like I said, this is going to be a different show. So sorry if I paused to compose my thoughts a little bit on this. Now, there has been speculation that at a rally for President Trump, that there was possible language that basically created the riots. That's what media is saying. Now, whether or not that's actually what happened, I'm not going to take any side on that.
I did not seek out or see any evidence of that. Well, remember, I did not look for it after that. But it would not be something that would surprise me at all if that happened.
Someone
said without a doubt that was a fact that happened, I would be completely, yeah, that sounds like something that might happen, especially in 2020, a rough year. Oh, it's actually 2021 now.
I don't.
Well, I mean, close enough, right?
Let's see. Well, let's get into this and we'll see if this talks about it. So a social media platform, actually many large social media platforms have gone and basically banned Donald Trump from their platforms. And what they're saying is that because of the apparent message that he was giving to his base, that it violated their terms of service.
Tech companies definitely do not like him one bit. I mean, how could you if you're a tech company? He's been trying to do things to this, like, Section 230 and all that, and he presents a difficult question, like, okay, they can ban him, right? They can say, you're not allowed to use our platform. But, I mean, whether or not they're right in doing so, it's going to make a lot of people angry.
And that's the one thing that I want to talk
about. So
they
have to weigh the costs of, like, is it worth pissing off such group of people, a large group of people, or, do we just want them out? It's like, geez, there's not even a good answer to this.
And that's a big thing that I want to talk about in this topic. We're going to have some debate about that here in a second. But let's get into the article real quick here. We'll kind of go from there. So Twitter has permanently banned President Donald Trump. This happened on Friday, days after a pro-Trump mob stormed the U.S. Capitol, leaving 5 dead. Let me just preface this by saying that I am reading an article here. These are not my opinions. These are not Zach's opinions. We are just reading what is here in this article. So again, my political views, Zach's political views, we're going to try our best to not bring those into the show and be, like I said, as unbiased as possible here. So after close review of recent tweets from the @RealDonaldTrump account and the context around them, we have permanently suspended the account due to the risk of further incitement of violence, Twitter said in a statement on Friday. The ban comes after the president incited a mob that broke into the U.S. Capitol building despite Congress's certification of Joe Biden as the president-elect. Twitter initially put a 12-hour ban on Trump's account for repeated and severe violence of our civic integrity policy after he posted messages repeating lies that the election was stolen. At the time, Twitter said Trump would be banned permanently if he continued to violate its rules, including those around civic integrity and violence threats. Twitter said in a statement Friday that 2 new tweets posted since Trump's initial supervision violated the platform's rules, prompting the permanent suspension. Due to the ongoing tensions in the United States and the uptick in global conversation in regards to the people who violently stormed the Capitol on January 6, 2021, those 2 tweets must be read in the context of broader events in the country and the way in which the president's statements can be mobilized by different audiences, including to incite violence, as well as in context of the pattern of behavior from this account in recent weeks, Twitter said in its Friday blog. Twitter decided that new tweets were highly likely to encourage and inspire people to replicate the criminal act at the Capitol and shared its reasoning in 5 parts. So here's what it says. President Trump's statement that he will not be attending the inauguration is being received by a number of his supporters as further confirmation that the election was not legitimate, and is seen as him disavowing his previous claim made via 2 tweets. Okay, they've got some links back. Anyway, by his deputy chief of state, Dan Scavino? I've talked about this before. I shouldn't try to pronounce names on the show. Anyway, that there would be an orderly transition on January 20th. The second tweet may also serve as encouragement to those potentially considering violent acts that the inauguration would be a safe target as he will not be attending. The use of the words American patriots to describe some of his supporters is also being interpreted as support for those committing violent acts at the U.S. Capitol. The mention of his supporters having a giant vote long into the future, and that they will not be disrespected or treated unfairly in any way, shape, or form, is being interpreted as further indication that President Trump does not plan to facilitate an orderly transition, and instead that he plans to continue to support, empower, and shield those who believe he won the election. Let's see. This also says plans for future armed protests have already begun proliferating on and off of Twitter, including a proposed secondary attack on the U.S. Capitol and state Capitol buildings on January 17, 2021. Twitter declined to comment on other Trump-related accounts like at POTUS, President of the United States, when questioned by The Verge. If Trump attempted to circumvent this ban by using a separate account, that account would be permanently suspended at first detection, according to Twitter. If a government account like at POTUS was used to evade at real Donald Trump's ban, Twitter said that it would try to limit the account or the account's use, but would not suspend it unless it was necessary to curb real world violence. It's worth noting that I believe both the POTUS account and at Team Trump or something, or Team President Trump, a couple other accounts owned, I believe, have now been suspended as well, as there were some tweets apparently posted on those accounts that Twitter was monitoring very closely, I guess. Early Friday, more than 300 Twitter employees signed on to an internal petition calling for Trump to be permanently banned following the January 6th Capitol riots. We must examine Twitter's complicity in what President-elect Biden has rightfully termed insurrection. Those acts jeopardize the well-being of the United States, our company, and our employees, the employees wrote in the letter. On Thursday, Facebook put an indefinite ban on Trump that it said would last at least through Inauguration Day. Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg said the risks are simply too great to allow Trump continued access after he used the platform to incite violence, insurrection against a democratically elected government. The suspension has been a long time coming. For years, Twitter has faced pressure to remove Trump from its platform due to the large megaphone it's offered him to spread hateful language and lies. The company justified his continued presence on the platform as being in the public interest. Okay, there was a lot to digest there. I think one of the biggest things that we need to address real quick here, because I've seen some things. I've kind of been following this a little bit, and that is that there is a large majority of people that believe that this is a violation of First Amendment rights. Let me ask you, Zach, what do you think?
Well, I don't think so, because, I mean, ultimately it's their platform. You know, they can choose who's allowed to use it and who isn't.
And I think that that is a very important...
He is perfectly welcome to create his own platform and post what he wants, or go on another platform that will allow him and post what he wants. But, you know, if they say they don't want somebody, if they said they didn't want you or me on there, you know, once again, there's not really anything we can do about it. It's, I mean, that's all in the legal agreement anyway that you agree to when you sign up, that they can ban you for any reason if they choose to.
Exactly.
They can at any time say that you're not allowed to be there.
Exactly. And that's one big thing that I wanted to cover.
And they don't do that. They put that there to cover their butts, though, just in case.
That's one big thing that I did want to cover in today's show, especially with this topic, is that yes, in the United States, we have the privilege of having the First Amendment right, which gives us a right to free speech within reason.
Well, the only thing it gives you the right to is the government not stopping you from saying what you want.
Yeah, there are some provisions. You can't run into a crowded movie theater
Right.
and yell fire.
Right. Yes.
But that's why I say within reason. But Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube are privately owned companies that have a set of terms and conditions that you probably blew past when you created your account, let's be honest, but they're there. And I'm sure that most of us have received emails periodically that terms and conditions are changing as well. But those terms and conditions lay out specific policies that a company has come up with. Yes, you're right, in order to basically protect their rear end. But if you violate those terms and conditions that you have agreed to, the platform, as a private company, has the right to prevent you from utilizing their platform.
They can do that whether you did anything or not. That's just it.
And I think
you
the
don't
thing
have
is,
to have done something wrong for them to do that.
Right. I think the thing is too is that one thing that I'm seeing is also, well, why is say President Trump being banned from the platform while this other group is not being banned from the platform? And my personal opinion on that is that Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, these social media platforms are huge. How many millions of users, how many millions of accounts are created on that platform every day, or are in existence on those platforms? It is, even with AI and machine learning, it is impossible for these companies to monitor every single thing that is happening on their platforms. And I think the part of the reason that you may see somebody, again, like President Donald Trump being banned versus another group is you have to remember that President Trump is a massive figure. He's the president of the United States. And so his account is more prevalent than maybe a small group or something like that. And so I think that what's happening is more people are watching that account, a little closer. So that's my personal opinion as to why you see some people get banned versus other people get banned. And I think a lot of times that relies on, the community on those platforms, reporting specific things that they see, because again, it's impossible for these companies to monitor every single thing that's happening on their platforms.
Well, just due to the number of people seeing it, it's not really difficult.
And right,
in
and
the
that's
case of a high-profile person,
exactly, and that's what I'm saying.
That some questionable content was posted,
and that's what I'm saying is that's why I believe myself that is the reason why you see one account versus another account get banned.
Personally, I don't take great offense to someone just, blabbing on about things that are proven incorrect. But there is probably a point to be made about, hey, he's, at this point, some of these posts have been observed to cause people to commit violent acts, which is probably not something we should be broadcasting to everyone. Hey, look at what this person wrote.
And that's the other thing that's what Twitter and all these other large social media platforms are saying is that you're right, the megaphone, as they wrote in the article.
Oh God,
that is there. Well, it is though. Is that the megaphone that is being really offered there is, how many thousands or millions of people are following that account, and it's a way for anybody, not just President Donald Trump, not just Zach, if he had social media, or myself, it's a way for anyone to have a voice and to be able to broadcast a message to a large number of people very, very easily. And so when there are messages that are being broadcasted on that platform that the platform perceives to be something that is dangerous, and in the case of Twitter and other platforms, they're saying that the messages that were being sent were something that stirred up certain people to the point where there was again a mob at the United States Capitol. They're saying we need to take a look at this and really make a determination as to what we need to do. And there is, as we read in the article, there is fear there that by continuing to allow messages to be shared on their platforms, not just by President Donald Trump, but by other individuals as well, that they can lead to more acts of violence or crime or undesirable behaviors.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, ultimately, it doesn't matter if it's fair though, because they do reserve the right to allow or disallow anyone they want to from posting on their service.
Right. So that leads to kind of ours. So these topics kind of build on top of each other here. So because and it's been said, and I don't think that this is again either a Republican thing or a Democratic thing, is that the reason that President Donald Trump decided to utilize Twitter or social media in general, Twitter just happened to be the platform that he chose, was that there's been a message that traditional news media cannot be trusted. Now, whether you believe that or not, that is up to you. And so basically, the reasoning for using Twitter was a way for President Trump to have his own voice, and to share his message without it being interpreted
in a more direct fashion.
Exactly, in a more direct fashion,
he can
without
it
being interpreted by the news media. And Donald Trump has not been shy about criticizing the media as well.
Absolutely not.
So that's why we're seeing him use it. And so now that he has, as news articles are saying, has been deplatformed, he's seeking a way to continue to share his message with his base, his followers.
And I don't doubt that he will find it.
Oh, he already has.
There will be.
He already has. So he has moved to a social media platform called Parler. And Parler is crowned as a open social media platform that basically just allows their users to post whatever it is that they want without any consequences. Now, whether you believe that's a good idea or not, that's up to you.
Well, I mean, there have always been places where you could post whatever you want, but I mean, I guess if you don't like it, you don't have to browse there. I won't be browsing there. I don't really have any interest. But fair enough. I mean, if they promise they will allow people to post whatever they want, including Mr. President Trump, then that's fine, I guess. Good for them. I don't know. I think that actually read something today that said that they were they were having some issues with some of their service providers as a result of that stance.
So yeah, let's see. So Parler was launched in August of 2018, and Parler markets itself as a free speech and unbiased alternative to mainstream social networks, such as Twitter and Facebook. So yeah, so basically, according to what I kind of read in a statement from the CEO, basically he said that it's not my place to basically censor anybody, as that's what some people are believing that Twitter and other social media platforms are doing to President Donald Trump, that they are censoring him.
It's a fair stance to have.
It is
take his hands off and be like, you know what, you can say whatever you want. It doesn't have to be true. It doesn't have to be legit. It could be anything you want to say. Just put it on there.
And that's what Parler
is.
Fine,
as long as it's not illegal.
Well, and so this is where some of the controversy is coming from, is that that again, Parler, from what my understanding is a very hands-off platform. My understanding is you create an account and you can basically post anything that you want, free from fear that you will be censored by the platform, which I think opens up, personally myself, opens up some the potential for some questionable activity. But again, my understanding is that Parler is, again, marketing themselves as, it is not our place to decide what it is that you do and do not post, or what you can and cannot post on our platform. Now, because of this, we get into another interesting debate here of, again, and I think really the biggest thing that we're seeing with these, especially by President Donald Trump supporters, is that they feel that, again, these social media platforms are trying to censor his message. And I'm sure that they're going to attack now Apple and Google, and possibly even Amazon now, as Apple and, well, I know Google has disallowed the assisted living is on 405 Avenue. Okay, Google, stop. That was funny. Anyway, no, so the Play Store has basically told Parler that they are not allowed to distribute their app on the Play Store now. I don't know if Apple has done the same thing on the App Store yet. I know that there was,
I think they did, didn't they?
Well, so there was Apple sent a notice to Parler, basically giving him an ultimatum, saying either you need to come up with a policy basically to prevent specific language, meaning violence and other things like that. You have to have some kind of policy that says that's not okay. We're going to give you 24 hours to come up with something, or we will suspend your app from the App Store. Now, whether or not that they actually did, I'm not quite sure. I feel like from what I've read in articles, at least from Parler's CEO, that he had no intentions of doing anything of the sort. So I would imagine that that the app is no longer available in either the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. And this is creating some controversy as well by now giant tech companies like Apple and Google, also trying to censor the message of not just President Donald Trump, but others as well. And so we kind of get into this interesting debate again, where my personal opinion on this is that just like Twitter, just like Facebook, just like YouTube, just like Twitch, Apple owns the App Store, Google owns the Play Store. These are both privately held companies that, again, also have their set of terms and conditions that app developers agree to when they publish an app on those particular platforms. And as a private company, again, they have the right to allow or disallow any app on their platforms. And now the argument is that, that Apple and Google are being gatekeepers at this point.
Well, I think that would go back to, like, sure, I guess, what you're saying is correct. They can do whatever they want. It's their app store. But here's an issue that I have with that, is that because of their positioning themselves as the only app store, well, Apple, I suppose, positioning itself as the only app store that iOS users are allowed to use, that creates kind of an issue. Like, well,
here's an argument, though, for you. Is
now
that
there's no alternative because Apple has killed alternatives. Really?
There is, because Parler is accessible through the web, through a web browser.
True. That's true.
So
as far as to distribute their application, there is no alternative to the App Store.
Right.
I mean, ultimately, Apple can do whatever they want with it.
Right, but my argument would be is that while the app may not be available, Apple is not censoring you from being able to access the platform via the Safari web browser. Or Google is not preventing you from accessing the platform via, the built-in web app on your phone.
Downloading the app or...
not necessarily. Well, okay, so Google is a little bit different, or Android is a little bit different story, because there are alternative app stores that you can utilize to download the app. But again, you still have the ability to open a web browser on your device and access the platform.
You also have the ability to sideload the app if you choose to do so.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yep.
Well, not just go to the site on a web browser, but you can download the app. Like the application runs outside of a web browser. You could install that on your Android phone.
So that is kind of the argument being made in terms of
well, I do suspect that both of those things, sideloading and web browser, will potentially be out of reach, technically speaking, of a lot of potential people.
Right, but unlike with Fortnite, when we talked about that, it's the same thing. I can take my device and load up Facebook.com and access the platform. Is it maybe as elegant?
Reason that I'm... That was the first thing that came to mind when, we were talking about, well, they got blocked from this and that app store. It's like, well, I mean, we kind of thought the same about Epic, honestly. It was like, well, they can do what they want, even if it's kind of dumb. And I guess, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I guess I don't take great interest in it, frankly, but ultimately they can do what they want.
I think the argument to be made, and you're right, and I think that is something that we need to...
I'm not sure I agree with the idea that in Apple's case, they own the only, platform that can be used to install new software on your iPhone, right?
That's true.
And for them to disallow a piece of software just because they don't like it, that definitely presents some interesting questions.
Well, so here's the thing.
If it were possible to sideload the app, it would be like, well, you can always download it and install it yourself.
So here's what Apple is arguing in terms of Parler is, okay. and I think this is important to also remember, is that Apple didn't just, I believe Google just turned the app off.
Well, they did not forcibly remove it from your phone. No,
they didn't. But I think they just turned it off in the Play Store. without any communication with Parler itself. Now, I could be wrong on that, but that's what my understanding is. They basically just turned the app off.
I have a feeling that this presents a very difficult question for the people in charge of Parler. Do they go back on what they promised, or do they have to now find an alternative distribution method?
Right, exactly. And things get more interesting in a second.
I don't envy that decision.
Things get more interesting in a second. Now, in the case of Apple, one argument that I will make in Apple's case here is that there is language in their terms of service that says that you have to have a moderation system in place in your app to have your app be in the App Store. And so the idea of a of an unregulated, shall we say, platform to share your opinions, an uncensored platform to share your opinions. Apple is saying that this, technically violates our terms of service or terms and conditions. Now, Apple did reach out to them and say, here's what you can do to continue to utilize or to continue to have your app carried in on our platform. And I'm pretty sure that I don't know if they did. I think they probably did the same thing with Epic.
Probably.
Now, the argument would be, though, is that, again, Parler is accessible through a web browser. So there is still a way to access it on the device easily. In the case of Fortnite, I don't believe that is the case.
It is not. However, actually, on that topic, I would not be surprised if in the not-so-distant future, mobile web browsers are sophisticated enough for that to actually be a thing.
That's a possibility. A while back, I played a game, it was called Crunker, I believe.
A lot of game streaming services are going that route. And I know that's different than having, all the game assets stored on the device. But a lot of, because, Google and Apple and those companies, they don't want, things like Microsoft's xCloud or GeForce Now or whatever on their stores. I'm not actually sure about GeForce Now, but I think that, for example, I'm pretty sure I recall Microsoft having issues getting their app approved by Apple, right? Because, I don't know, for some reason Apple doesn't like it.
And you also have to remember, Apple has very strict guidelines for what is able to be published on.
Of course they do. They're Apple. But anyway, the workaround was that the web browser would be used to stream the game to your device and receive inputs. Pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Kind of a tangent, but that's the thing.
Yeah, and again, I don't think that it is without scrutiny, shall we say, that we do have to look at that as, our viewpoint is that Epic should be allowed to continue to be on the App Store. Then again, at the same time, they did violate Apple's terms of service by...
I would say my viewpoint is more that there should be more than one app store allowed.
I think you're right.
Then it would not be a question. It would be an open and shut case at that point. Apple can do what they want, and they will. That's it. End of story. And they're not even, and they wouldn't even. It would be much more difficult to view them as in the wrong for doing so.
You're right.
Because, it would just be like, well, here's an alternative platform you can use. It's just fine. It's right here.
Well, and again,
but there is no such thing.
Again, I think that
we're getting back to that.
Well, you're right, but I think that in the case of Parler itself, if we look at that as a single thing here, right? Single case here.
Yeah, I suspect they will be again, just web browser.
Apple is saying that we are no longer going to carry your app on our App Store because we believe that it violates our terms and conditions. Here are the reasons why. Again, Apple has given them a chance to make those changes and say, here is what we're asking you to do. Either asking you or telling you to do, but regardless, there's that communication there saying this is what needs to change, and we will continue to carry your app, or you'll decide that you don't want to do those things that we're asking you to do, and in accordance with our terms and conditions, they'll violate them, and we will no longer carry your app. But again, I think the argument there again is to be made is that if you're saying that Apple is being a gatekeeper, again, Apple is not saying, first, Apple is not deleting the app from people's phones, as far as I know. Although I do think Apple has the ability to do that.
Is there any precedent for that?
I think they do it with Angry Birds.
That would be bad. If that happened,
or not.
If that happened, I think that would be bad.
Bird? I think it was Flappy Bird.
I remember that.
Because people were getting so upset, from what my understanding was, people were getting so upset when they would lose the game that it was leading to, I don't know if this is true, but it was leading to like people committing suicide and things like that, which is obviously not okay.
That's ridiculous. I mean, honestly though, is that really Apple's concern? Well,
I think so.
Fair enough, but at the same time, like,
well, they don't want their devices associated with that. I don't think any app company would.
Well, yeah, but uninstalling the app from a device that's, privately owned, that's bad. I strongly disagree with
depends
that.
On what Apple's,
reason.
depends on what Apple's got written in their
depends
on what Apple's got written in their terms and conditions.
There could be any application. I would be strongly opposed to the manufacturer of the device uninstalling anything or making any kind of changes on their own to my phone. That's ridiculous.
I don't know if that's true, but again,
done,
it's possible. It is possible that Apple has a clause somewhere in their terms and conditions when you purchase an iPhone that gives them the right to do that, or terms and conditions of using the App Store. I could be wrong. I'm not sure. I've not read Apple's terms and conditions in full. So I'll admit it.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm one of those people that doesn't really read them. I just kind of click OK. But that also means that if I violate those terms and conditions, I agree to them, and if that platform or app or software wants to disallow me use because I have abused the terms and conditions, then that's on me. And they're well within their legal right to do that, because I basically agreed to I don't know if it's a legally binding.
I think there's precedent to say that the terms of service cannot be legally binding.
I don't know about that. I'm not a lawyer. But anyway, so this is where we're going to start getting into some more of these censorship issues here as well. Is that Amazon is kicking Parler off its web hosting service now. And the latest blow to social app Parler, Amazon said Saturday it was suspending the company from its web hosting platform effective at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time Sunday. First reported by BuzzFeed News, unless Parler finds another web hosting service, the site will go offline Saturday night. Now, okay, this again opens up...
I suspect that will actually be less of an issue for them. I'm sure there will be a company that will provide them service.
You're right. This again opens up this kind of debate once again of what people are going to say is censorship, which is the biggest problem that people are having with this whole situation right now. There is a strong number of people that believe that all of these companies are trying to censor President Donald Trump's message. And again, I would say that all these companies have their terms of service. They're privately owned companies, and they're well within their rights to do that. So
they can even call it censoring if they want to.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Now, in the case of this, again, Amazon is a privately owned company. They have their terms and conditions. They can make their own rules. You're right. There are plenty of web hosts that I am sure would be more than happy to host Parler's app. And the argument also could be made that Parler is well within their right to host their platform on their own equipment that they own, and can do what it is that they want with that. Is that always necessarily the most viable option? Typically not.
No, definitely not.
But it's still an option. And so again, I think when you're looking at the censorship issue, is you may not like that a particular company is not allowing their not allowing something specifically on their platform. But I think it's important to look and see that there are alternatives. And let's go back to this too, is that if there's an argument that Twitter, Facebook, large social media are censoring President Donald Trump, there is nothing stopping Donald Trump from building his own social media platform, and he's well within his right to do that. So
honestly, it'd be a smart business move.
That probably would be.
Hire some people to make it happen, and he will have an instant audience for it.
You're right, he will.
And he can do whatever he wants there.
Exactly. And there's nothing stopping me or Zach from developing our own social media platforms. There's nothing stopping anybody from developing their own social media platforms. So again, this idea of censorship, I think is... It's hard to, for myself at least, to...
hard to agree with calling it that.
Hard to agree with calling it that, you're right. You don't have to like the fact that, again, that these large companies are doing this.
I mean, I suppose in a strictly technical sense it is censorship. But they're allowed to do it.
See, that this is where I run into an issue. Is it censorship, though, when it is a private...
Let's look up the dictionary definition.
I guess it technically is censorship.
Let's see. According to Google, censorship would be defined as the suppression or prohibition of any part of books, films, news, etc. that are considered obscene, politically unacceptable, or a threat to security.
So you're right.
I think that fits the description.
I think you're right.
The difference is that they're allowed to do it if they want to.
Yeah, and I think that's, again, the other issue that people are seeing is that they are saying that Twitter, that Facebook, that large social media platforms are... So, yeah, you're right, they are censoring by that definition. But they're saying that
there's also certainly, a discussion to be had about whether or not it's rightfully done. Now, do you feel it's justified? Well, I mean, ultimately it doesn't matter. We've kind of talked in circles about it now.
Exactly, yeah. Is it justified? Maybe not to you, but again, by their terms of service, they're a private platform. They can decide what they want. I think the bigger question is does it violate your First Amendment rights?
No.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm with you on that one there too. Is that no? I don't believe that it violates. I don't believe that it violates your First Amendment rights. As again, they're private companies who make their own rules. Yeah, you're right. We've kind of walked around in circles on this, but that's kind of where I'm at. Now, Parler's CEO said in a post on the site Saturday evening that the site could be offline for up to 2 weeks as they rebuild from scratch. He said the company had prepared for such an event, but never relying on Amazon's proprietary infrastructure and building bare metal products. So it sounds like they do have their own servers and things like that. He added that many were competing for Parler's business and accused Amazon, Google, and Apple of coordinating or of a coordinated attack to kill competition. We were too successful too fast. He wrote, you can expect the war on competition and free speech to continue, but don't count us out. And that's the CEO John Matisse, I think is how you pronounce his name. The CEO of Parler. Again, he has built this platform to be a free speech platform, and he believes that again, Amazon, Google, Apple are all coordinating to basically strike that down.
I would personally say that based on that statement, it's unlikely that they will cave to the company's demands, and they will try to find their own way to do what they want.
But it sounds like he has prepared for this and has built
Fair enough.
Their own proprietary infrastructure, which again, they're well within their rights to do.
I don't think that's actually what was meant by that statement. I think that actually what that means is the app was built in such a way that it could be migrated easily.
Oh, that's potentially. But regardless, he says the company had prepared for such an event by never relying on Amazon's proprietary infrastructure and building bare metal products. So yeah, and they're well within their right to host their own servers and do what it is that they want with those servers. So they're within their right to do that. Of course, in accordance with laws and regulations and other things like that. But again, I'm not a lawyer, so I can't say what those things are.
We should move on.
Let's see. According to BuzzFeed, Amazon Web Services, or AWS, told Parler officials that the violence imposed on the site ran afoul of its terms and services. There again, we see those terms and services again popping up, and that it did not believe Parler had a process in place to get back on track. Because Parler cannot comply with our terms of service and poses a very real risk to public safety, we plan to suspend Parler's account effective Sunday, January 10th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. The company's trust and safety team wrote in a letter to Parler. Again,
they're basically saying that they want nothing to do with it because if anything happens, they don't want to be associated with it.
Yeah. And Apple has basically said the same thing.
Taken by most of the tech companies that have decided they don't want to work with Parler.
Exactly. Yeah. And Apple said something very similar. Earlier on Saturday, a group of Amazon employees demanded the company sever its relationship with Parler and stop providing web hosting services to the platform. Amazon employees for climate change and justice tweeted Saturday that Amazon Web Services, the company's internet infrastructure service that is the backbone of many websites and apps, should deny Parler service until it removes posts inciting violence, including at the presidential inauguration. Parler has become popular among supporters of President Trump as platforms like Twitter and Facebook tighten their mediation policies. The group of Amazon employees included many high-skilled workers at the company, including data scientists and software developers. This is not the first time the group has questioned its company's practices. It published a letter in April 2019 calling on Amazon to adopt plans to address climate change and end AWS's contracts with fossil fuel companies. Okay. Parler has been in the spotlight in the past several days with activist groups Sleeping Giants calling for the app to be pulled from app stores in response to posts calling for violence against elected officials. Screenshots show post on Parler, known as Parlays, calling for Vice President Mike Pence to face a firing squad and encouraging patriots to return to Washington, D.C. on January 19th with weapons. According to the AWS acceptable use policy, customers may not use its servers for any illegal, harmful, fraudulent, infringing, or offensive use. AWS cut ties with right-wing social site Gab in 2019 for violating its policies against hateful content. On Friday, Google removed Parler from its Play Store because it lacked a robust mechanism for moderating egregious content, according to a statement. We're aware of continued posting in the Parler app that seek to incite ongoing violence in the U.S., the statement reads. Late Saturday, Apple also banned Parler. Okay, so they did, from its App Store. According to one report, before it was banned, Parler rose to the number one spot in the App Store late Friday. Parler didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. from The Verge on Saturday. So, yeah.
Well,
there you go. So
certainly an interesting time to be an employee of theirs, I'm sure.
it's an interesting time for all of us right now.
Interesting time to be alive. Yeah, I get it.
Final thoughts on this is that, again, these companies are privately owned companies. They have their policies, and they are using those policies to basically decide that they want to cut ties with Parler. They want to cut ties with President Donald Trump, and there again are a large number of people that don't agree with those. Agree with what's happening there, but again, I think when it comes down to it, that again, these are privately owned companies that have their rights to do what it is that they deem, or that fit, their business model. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say about that. Wow, what a kind of, I don't want to say depressing, but very kind of controversial, beginning to our show there. So let's get off all the political stuff. And we are going to hop into just some kind of tech news with your Microsoft news for the week. Microsoft is planning a sweeping visual rejuvenation of Windows, Zach.
Oh God, I'm sure it's gonna be terrible.
Microsoft.
I haven't heard anybody say that they think Windows, needs to be changed visually. Just leave it. Okay, it's fine. It's fine how it is. Just leave it.
You know what I noticed though? I think,
or at least make it an option. Okay, just make it a toggle switch. Use the new one or use the old one. Just
you know what I noticed though is that I think in the recent Windows update that they sent out, because I launched a virtual machine the other day, I believe that they have brought the dark theme back to Windows, the classic theme that was initially there. I don't know about you, but I was not a fan of the light themed Windows or taskbar.
Oh yeah, I thought you meant the dark theme in like the File Explorer or something, because I was like, that's not classic. That was a new thing, but yeah, I agree. I was not a fan of the
lighter theme,
the light taskbar and all that. That was weird.
I think it was one of those things where we're just not really accustomed to change, but
well, it's also a change that didn't really need to happen.
You're right. I think just for myself though, personally, I got used to the darker taskbar, and I honestly think it suits the visuals a little bit better. So yeah, I don't know why Windows felt that they needed to change that.
Look, my take is just make it an option. Just make it a toggle switch, an option.
It is an option.
And I'm sure it is still an option, and that's fine. That's fine. Options are good.
Well, okay. I think it's more of an option now, but initially to get
they also made it the default at first. And that
initially
that was very dumb. Should not have done that. They should have made it an option, and then maybe the first time you boot up after getting the update, you get a one-time pop-up that says, "Here's something new." Like here's a list of the changes that we made. And maybe
do you want a light theme?
Listed as a new thing. We added an option for this. Okay, great.
Do you want a light theme or dark theme? The annoying thing was though was when you switched back to the dark theme, it didn't change the theme back to what I thought it was going to change it to. I actually had to go in and adjust some settings in the registry to get it behave in the way that I wanted it to behave. So
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was slightly frustrating. But anyway, yeah, so Microsoft is planning a sweeping visual rejuvenation of Windows that is designed to signal to users of the operating system that, Zach, Windows is back!
I didn't know it left.
That's according to a job listing posted by Microsoft recently, advertising for a software engineering role in the Windows Core User Experience team. On this team, you will work with our key platform, Surface, and OEM partners to orchestrate and deliver a sweeping visual rejuvenation of Windows experiences to signal to our customers that Windows is back and ensure that Windows is considered the best user OS experience for customers. Okay, step one, let's get rid of all the telemetry data.
Yes.
Step two, let's get rid of the crap automatic updates.
Yes.
Step three, I don't know. Fix all the bugs. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So Microsoft quietly removed references to its sweeping visual rejuvenation this morning. Let's see, when was this written? This was written on the 4th. After several Windows enthusiasts spotted the job listing over the weekend, while Microsoft has been promising visual overhauls of Windows 10 for years, thanks to its fluid design system, rumors suggest the company is planning big user interface changes for Windows that will debut later this year. Oh, joy. Codenamed Sun Valley, Windows Central first reported on these UI changes back in October. Microsoft is planning to overhaul the Start menu, File Explorer, and built-in apps in Windows 10 to modernize them and make the UI more consistent. They're also planning on deleting more of your files in the process.
Right.
Nothing?
Right.
Some of the UI changes will include updates to the sliders, buttons, and controls that are found throughout Windows and the apps that run on the OS. Microsoft is also working on improving its tablet mode experience, particularly how devices like the company's Surface line switch between mouse and trackpad usage and touch-based interactions. Look, okay, I will say this. I think that's initially what Microsoft should have done. When they first launched Windows 8.
Yeah, I can see that.
Rather than just giving you this odd Metro interface, which, by the way, I've gotten used to.
I got used to it as well, actually. I had a Windows 8 laptop for some years.
It
was not even 8.1. It was a normal Windows 8 laptop.
Oh, okay. So I like 8.1 much better than I like
Yes, the 8.1 was more like the Windows 10 style of start menu, wasn't it?
No, because it still included the Metro interface. But that was our first look at the live tiles.
Oh, yeah.
So, and the Goofy Charms bar. I could have done without the Charms bar, and I was not a fan of the full screen start menu. It's okay, but I prefer
the Charms bar, that thing. Yeah.
I prefer the start menu that is in Windows 10.
I agree. However, the reason that I was more accommodating, I feel at least the reason that I was more accommodating than many, to the start menu, right? Being full screen and all that, was because I had a habit, and still do, actually, of just pushing start and typing what I want and pushing enter.
You can still do that with...
You can still do that, yes. It did not, the fact that it was blasting full screen didn't really affect my my workflow there, It was whatever, right? I would use it the same way. So, that was the thing, I guess, but...
I think my issue with Windows 8, the core Windows 8, was that they were trying to force you into I feel they were trying to take something like your desktop, right, and kind of port it to a what it felt like a touchscreen interface, which is not how your computer generally is designed to be used. And so I think that that's one of my biggest issues with it was, what is this goofy Metro interface that we've got here? Where's my desktop that I'm familiar with? And then once you're on the desktop, where's my start button? Where's my start menu? These have been things that were built into Windows for years. And obviously there were enough people that agreed with that, that Microsoft said, we need to overhaul this a little bit and launched Windows 8.1 with some of those changes in there.
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't honestly think though that Windows 8.1 was a horrible operating system. Like I said, I think it was just, or Windows 8 for that matter. I think it was just the visual portion of Windows 8 that Microsoft tried to make too many changes too quick. And people didn't like that. Again, I was not a fan. 8.1 though, I don't think they even support 8.1 anymore. But if they did, I think I'd still prefer Windows 10, but I'd be okay with using Windows 8.1. That's basically what Server 2012 R2 is based on top of, and that's what we're using at the church. So I'm familiar with that layout. So anyway, but yeah, Microsoft has been working on improving its UI consistency throughout Windows in recent years, and a lot of that will be found in Windows 10X. The company also rolled out new Windows 10 icons nearly a year ago, followed by some minor tweaks to the start menu a few months later. All of this work comes as Microsoft has signaled a renewed interest in Windows. Surface chief Panos Panay took on the additional role of looking after Windows back in October after previously teasing some additional Windows 10 UI changes last year. After a jump in Windows usage due to the pandemic, it feels like Microsoft might be more ready than ever to give its operating system the UI polish it has been promising for years. I thought we had... let's see. I thought there were some pictures of what... Oh, yeah, here we go. Of what these new UI changes were going to look like. They don't honestly look that different. So here's what we got. So here are the toggle switches, Zach.
Okay. Well, as long as they're... if these are things that are turn on or turn off, that's fine with me. No issue with that.
Well, so basically, I think these things already exist in the operating system now. They're just kind of changing the way that they look a little bit. Here are some of the sliders. These are proposed, by the way. Rating controls. Anything else in here? Some of the check boxes, radio buttons. Again, these are proposed. These aren't like final. So yeah. Kind of interesting. So there you go. There's that. Let's see. Oh, so here's an update to a story that I think we're going to end with this, and then we'll call our show for this week. Let's see. So Intel Corp has talked with TSMC and Samsung Electronics company about the Asian companies making some of its best chips, but the Silicon Valley pioneer is still holding out hope for last-minute improvements in its own production capabilities. What do you think? Is it time for Intel to give in?
Well, last thing the world needs is fewer semiconductor foundries, so...
There is still gonna be some competition in the market, though, even if TSMC is the only one producing the chips. I think. Because Intel's obviously going to do their own stuff. AMD is going to do their own stuff. So, and as we read last week, it sounds like it would be some, not all, of its production. So, it sounds like Intel would still be producing some of their own chips. After successive delays in its chip fabrication process, Santa Clara, California-based Intel has yet to make a final decision less than 2 weeks ahead of a scheduled announcement of its plans, according to people familiar with the deliberations. Any components that Intel might source from Taiwan wouldn't come to market until 2023 at the earliest, and would be based on establishing manufacturing processes already in use by other TSMC customers. So, the people asking not to be identified because the plants are private. Okay. Somebody didn't sign an NDA, apparently.
Or disregarded it.
Or disregarded it, you're right, yeah. Talks with Samsung, whose foundry capabilities trail TSMC's, are at a more preliminary stage, the people said. TSMC and Samsung representatives declined to comment. An Intel spokesperson referred to previous comments by Bob Swan, the company's chief executive officer. Intel shares reversed some losses from earlier on Friday, leaving the stock down about 0.5% in afternoon trading in New York. Swan has promised investors he'll set out his plans for outsourcing and get Intel's production technology back on track when the company reports earnings January 21st. The world's best-known chip maker has historically led the industry in advanced manufacturing techniques, essential for maintaining the pace of performance increases in modern semiconductors. But the company has suffered year-long delays that have put it behind competitors and designed their own chips and contract TSMC to do the manufacturing. So, yeah. So kind of some interesting news there. Look, I would like to see Intel continue to be what is the word? Competitive in the market. Again, competition is a good thing for all of us. So whatever way they can get there, I think will be beneficial to the end users. That's my opinion. So don't know what you think, Zach, but
I agree.
Yeah, anyway. All right. I really don't have anything else for our show this week, so thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week here on The Ram Show. Goodbye.